and I almost gave up. I almost shut it all down during the pandemic, and I've come out with my best year of sales this year.
Good for you. Hi there, I'm Brenda from Makers Unleashed, and welcome to another segment of our YouTube video. Today we have the pleasure of meeting with Celine from Sew Geeky. And I'm introducing Argo here, who will be helping me interview her master, Celine. So say hi. We're really happy to have you here, and we just want to know your story, your background on how you became the owner of a small business, Sew Geeky.
It actually started 7 years ago. I went to a geeky garage sale. So Ottawa has outdoor geek garage sales every summer.
Cool.
And I was like, hey, I can make things for this. And honestly, I started with ribbon keychains and perlers, and that was what I started with. And then I was like, wait, I can add my sewing in here. So I started with things for babies because a lot of my friends were having babies. So I started with like the bandana bibs for the babies, some burp cloths, and soother clips. Because one of my friends was like, "This is like the most genius thing I've ever had," and I was like,
Nice.
"All right, this is super easy to make. I can make those." That's how it started, and then almost every year I was like, "Oh, I could add something new," and so now my focus is really just sewing items. I don't do any of the older stuff that I used to do, but I still do the baby stuff. But my main market now is the coffee cozies, scrunchies. Scrunchies are always popular. And now snack bags, and bags. So I've started making totes and sling bags.
Way to go. Wow. From the small stuff to the big stuff.
Yeah, I add something new every year. I really got to stop adding.
No, that's good though. You give a variety of stuff out there
Exactly.
for people to choose from. That's great.
To add to selection, so my best friend Erin also does some of the sewing, and so we work together as under one name.
So I know that you also work full time, and that you do this on the side, and I know you're a fitness guru here too, based on what I know about the Facebook page and stuff that you have. And so tell us more about how you manage your time when doing all of this. How does that work?
We're fairly certain, and I mean, talking like even the doctor's like, yeah, probably that I have ADHD. So time management is actually a problem for
everyone.
It's actually quite difficult. But what I do is I've created a routine, and I stick to that routine as much as possible. Fitness is very important, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Being able to move, and honestly, it's helped with my sewing because I can now sew for a few hours without getting a backache that takes me out for several days because I'm stronger in my core and I have better posture. So, I wake up at 5 a.m.
Oh my
morning.
gosh.
5 days a week. And I work out at about 6. And then I get ready for work, and I work from 9 to 5. I'm lucky I don't have much of a commute. I work from home 3 days a week, and as you know, I'm a 7-minute walk from the office.
Nice.
So that was one thing. Living close to the office was really important for me because I knew it would give me more time at home in the mornings and in the evenings to do the things that I love.
That time that you're saving for commuting is yours.
I've gained an hour and a half back every day. So for me, that means that if I want to sew in the evenings, I can.
Yeah.
If I want to go out in the evenings, I can. I'm also really close to a bunch of restaurants and going out, and so it's given me that flexibility to do what I want. And to be able to sew in the evenings, because to me it's relaxing. I will set this up sometimes right in front of the couch so I can watch TV while I'm sewing.
Nice.
And that's super relaxing for me. I work, as you know, in a very stressful job, and so having something that relaxes me outside of my workouts is really important. So this is one of my stress busters.
I guess it is important too to have that plan in place, because then you get overwhelmed and you're stressed out, and that's where burnouts come to be, right?
Yeah. But I will say that usually the week before a show, or the last 2 or 3 weeks before a show, I am scrambling, and I am like, I have 3 weekends. I'm like, okay, all I'm doing this weekend is sew. And then like evenings, I'm usually sewing till like 11, 12 o'clock the night before a show, and depending on how early it is, I might get up at 5 and sew before the show too. It
takes discipline,
because
right?
I'm always like, oh, I want to put something new. I don't have a lot of this, so let's do this.
Nice.
And I do it to myself. So.
Now you mentioned the markets. You were just saying about the markets. So, in terms of going to markets, how do you find the markets? What resources do you use to be able to pick the ones that you go to? I mean,
yeah. So most of my stuff is pop culture themed and licensed. So I actually started with things like the now defunct Geek Market, and Geeked Out events. Geeked Out is probably my biggest source of. I do their shows. They have 2, sometimes 3 a year.
Okay.
So they'll have 3 this year, with the last one in December will be gaming focus, and the one in September, the big one is September 29th weekend. And they also run something called Geek Informer, which is like events and shows that are pop culture themed coming up in the area.
Nice.
So that is one of my sources for upcoming markets that I'm able to. That's how I participate and know. And then the local 613 flea market. I've met a bunch of also vendors that do the events. I do 613 flea, or they do other events. So that's also part of my network, is talking to other vendors.
That's a good place to start, right?
Right. And, that's how I kind of started with the Ottawa Artisans. I'm doing my first show with them on July 15th.
Perfect.
And, we'll see how that goes. And from there.
Nice.
And I'm always adding markets.
Yeah.
Because some markets I've tried, it just wasn't the right audience.
Yeah.
My stuff is very niche. I am branching out a little bit, but I want to stay within my niche, and just choosing the markets is a really key, and just trial and error.
And speaking of niche, you mentioned geek community or whatever. Can you explain what that is in terms of even in your title of your business? It's also SEW, so geeky, which is really brilliant. But
so most of the items that I do use licensed fabric. So I'll show you. Not coordinated. So this one is Schitt's Creek themed.
Oh, yay!
And got some Powerpuff Girls.
Oh, cool.
A lot of Marvel. A lot of Star Wars. And so that is part of like my interests.
That's really neat.
And so I've kind of turned that into crafting, and that's that's kind of my preference. A lot of these things. So these will be coffee cozies. So they go around a coffee cup. They're insulated with the same thing that's in an oven mitt.
Neat. That's a great idea.
So they're actually they actually protect your hand.
Yeah.
So like it's all licensed. And
I think I actually have one of your Wonder Woman one. I
believe so. And
they work well, by the way.
Yeah, they're one of my hot sellers. Yeah. So like that's kind of where my interest lies. So kind of where I started and kind of my focus. I will do non-licensed stuff and more generic prints, but this is what I like working with, and that's what I'm known for.
Nice.
I recently did the Ottawa Mini Comic-Con as a vendor. So not this year, not this September, but next September, I'm going to definitely sign up as a vendor for the big Ottawa
That's nice.
Comic-Con.
That's going to be really great.
And I'm looking at some of the other big Comic-Cons in Ontario and Quebec that might be a good fit for me.
Nice.
So yeah, so
that's exciting. You're expanding, and that's the way to go, right?
And it's a great community of vendors.
And that's where you get all the ideas.
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. You get to know people, you network with people, and then they'll give you some advice. They'll give you.
Yep. And a lot of them have become friends, which is fantastic.
Nice. That's nice, and they're like-minded people that you can relate to. In terms of advice, let's say someone out there who is listening is also capable of sewing or doing similar to what you're doing. What would you say would be the hardest parts of starting that first step of the hobby business or the small business that you're starting? And what would be the biggest challenge in terms of that?
So the hardest part, I would say, is, especially when you're starting, is you will have a smaller selection because it costs a lot of money to get a lot of products at the start. So when it's a niche and when you're looking at specific fandoms, then you don't necessarily have what people are looking for yet.
True.
Keep building. So for me, it was very much a slow and steady growth.
Okay.
And I started with a smaller amount of products, and as I got more selections, then I was able to build in more products.
Yeah.
So, and don't be afraid to try it. Sometimes it's it's not what you thought it was going to be. It's not so it's kind of experiment with it. Experiment with what you're doing. Invest in your tools. Invest in your tools.
That's a good point.
Honestly, this was probably my best purchase because it shows in the quality of your work.
Okay. Yeah, and that makes a big difference. The way things, the result of your work it makes a big difference on the public's choice to buy. Did you want to ask a question? What do you want to ask Mommy? You want to ask Mommy a question? So funny. In terms of promoting your products, not only doing the markets and stuff, but do you have any social media platforms that you put your stuff on, and which one works best for you?
So I have an Instagram and Facebook page. I am finding more growth on Instagram right now because of the Reels features.
Okay.
I find that's been really popular for growth. But I will say I'm not as active on social media as I should be. And I should be posting more regularly.
Well, you don't have time.
Right, exactly.
It's part of that time management.
It's time management. It's, I need to just do more of that. I need to take more pictures of my products. Because right now there's not really any pictures of my products. There's just a little bit. And I know that for some markets, that's really important.
Yeah, I suppose.
Some markets will look at your social media and they will use that as part of because they want to. So I'm using it more now to advertise the shows that I have coming up. I don't sell online because I don't want it to take over. I don't want that pressure of having to do a specific. If I have something in stock and someone messages me, I will meet up with them for a sale or whatnot. But I'm not going to advertise hey, I have this for sale on
Marketplace or Kijiji.
Yeah, that's just not it's just not what I want myself. But definitely the Instagram definitely makes it. I have people that, I knew you were here because of Instagram, or I saw you on Facebook that you would be here today, so I came. This is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Or if someone does have a custom order, that the people that I know, they'll sometimes ask me for a specific item, and I'll be like, I have it now. It's made. Sometimes months later.
Well,
sometimes it takes a while to source the materials,
and
that's usually the
delay.
The delay, and then of course because I'm only doing this part time, you know, I want to still do my other activities. So, yeah, so that's, and they'll come and pick it up at a show or whatnot. So
Yeah, that's a good idea. So if people wanted to contact you, would you be comfortable for them to, if we had your Facebook
and my
link
Instagram page? Yeah, absolutely.
And your Instagram page. Okay, so we're going to have those in the description down below. So stay tuned. If ever you wanted a Sew Geeky product, we'll have links to that those pages down on the description.
Only thing I would say in closing is that for all vendors, any vendor, is experiment and give it time. Give yourself several years. Reinvest in your business at the start. And, you know, pay attention to how other people are pricing their items as well. Ask people that are in your community that are doing similar things. You don't want to be undercutting people on purpose. You want to, you know, there's enough market for everyone. Yeah, and I almost gave up. I almost shut it all down during the pandemic, and I've come out with my best year of sales this year.
Good for you.
You know,
you've
persistence and selection and
and listen to the customers too, right? Because that sometimes will give you an idea. Like you'll have someone come to your booth or your table and say, have you thought of doing this, and that? And that's also like marketing research for you.
Absolutely.
Which is important.
And like, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily feasible, and sometimes it's okay, well, maybe in the future. But if you can, like, one of my biggest things has been Ghostbuster fabrics. Everyone's like, do you have any Ghostbusters?
Really?
I can't source it. Can't find it.
No way.
Recently went to the United States and I found 3 licensed Ghostbusters fabric. Of course, I bought all 3. Like I had to. I was like, all right, so I'll be able to actually fulfill that request now.
And if nobody can find it, and you did, well, there you go.
Exactly. So sometimes it's not just, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily easy to find or source the item, but like once you do or once you can, like it's always good if people are asking for it repeatedly.
Yes.
There's a market for it.
Absolutely. Good advice. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for being here, Celine. It was a pleasure to chat with you and learn more about your story, your journey, and great advice. And we just wish you all the success going forward, and I'm sure you'll do well. And for you guys out there, make sure you click on the description below for her Facebook page and Instagram. And we hope you've enjoyed this chat we've had with Sew Geeky, Celine, aka Celine. And we'll see you next time on our next interview. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.